Alrighty, okay, channel 17, if you're ready, please go ahead and start recording. Okay, perfect. All right, we can go ahead and get started, Joyce.
All right, everyone, welcome to our April TMAC meeting. Let's begin with introductions. I guess we'll go to the right today. I'm Joy McMurray, TMAC Chair.
Oh, Vern Kiesler, Provo City Engineering. Paul Gordon, TMAC.
Judy Johnson, Provo Public Works.
Joseph Gandy, Provo Public Works.
Gordon Haight, Provo Public Works.
David Mickelson, Provo Public Works.
Jeff McLaughlin, TMAC.
George Hanley, City Council.
I'm Thomas McCutchery with Avenue Consultants.
Lisa Jensen, Planning Commission Rep on TMAC.
Golden Golding Development Services Parking.
That's Province TMAC.
David Rinaldo, TMAC. David Day, Public Works.
Anna Sullivan, Public Works. I wish.
Relevant
Services Planning.
Okay, on Shore, Provo Public Works.
Greg McFarland, TMAC.
Thank you. First action item today is approving the minutes from our March meeting. Anyone like to do that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. They were a work of art.
They were.
And I would fall in the discussion on the motion.
Okay, great. All in favor? Aye. Great. Next action item, possible action item. Last month, Vern talked to us about a possible pedestrian island in the middle of 9th East at 560 North. We can officially vote to recommend this. We can discuss it more. We can let it happen without officially recommending it. Is there any additional discussion on this from last month?
Would everybody like to see the slides again?
Just show us the act.
I can't remember why we wanted to, if you can do it anyway, why did we want to vote on it last time?
I don't know, you guys thought it would be a good idea to recommend something.
Official recommendation to city council that
We feel you.
Oh, yeah, funding, because it's already funded, right?
We want to know your opinion.
I have one question, Vern, and that is, for the people that's looking at this view, who are just to the east and south of 7th North, if they want to go south on 9th East, will they do that once this is installed?
On 560?
No, if you're in that neighborhood just to the east of 9th East, and you want to go south on 9th East, you can,
Turn left at 700.
so you want them to go all the way up to 700 back down again?
You have to go north or go south on a side street. Won't be able to make it. Yeah, you would probably find out, right?
I just want to make sure we thought through it before we build it, like what it's going to look
Yeah,
like.
you can zoom out a little bit more. You can see that we have a pretty good grid system here. It's probably the right around Bassett, Jim.
Behind the gym and then
Behind
down
the gym and down to
450.
450.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or up.
Or up to 700. Almost one street up. Or two streets. So what would, a good idea is on your recommendation is it's not funded today. And we're gonna go ask for funding, and it'd be nice to say TMAC recommended it. So I guess what I wanna say is, it is important, and if you wanna do it, you don't have, we'd also say you didn't recommend it if you didn't, but we think this is a good improvement.
Good thing is I can edit it, so even if you say you don't recommend it, I can
We
edit
can,
that
no,
part.
we'll,
That's on the public record.
That would be illegal, but.
On the public record.
Any TMAC members, I'm by no means against it, I just wanted to state this over here. Anyone want to speak strongly in favor of this?
I think it's a great idea.
Okay,
That's my neighbor.
I know that there's going to be outcry as any change. There's always somebody who doesn't like it. But 700 North is an example of what people will hate about it, is that you won't be able to get through the way you're used to getting through. But it also accomplishes what you want it to accomplish, which is less conflict points.
Well, the movement that we're eliminating, the two movements that we're eliminating are notoriously dangerous movements, and we want them gone. So I'm fine dealing with the pushback.
any other discussion or concern when George gets angry voicemails? Okay, then you said you want to make a motion for us? or Deb, would someone like to?
In lieu of,
Great,
Jeff
okay,
can
go
do it.
ahead. Deb.
Yeah, I move that we recommend the city council that this be installed as designed or as proposed.
I'll just say all in favor, okay.
I will second that motion.
Okay, all in
Do you
favor?
want discussion on that?
Yes, we want, thank you. Help us
Do
with
we
that.
want to, encourage them to fund it too, instead of just saying, we think it's a great idea? I know that that's implied in there, but
Sure.
I would say that our motion should include,
I will accept that amendment.
Is that part of our purview?
we're just,
Fund it.
we're just asking them to.
Good.
Do you want to restate it then?
Okay, I move.
I know you think we do this so rarely.
For amateurs.
Feel free to jump in.
Move is the right
I
person.
move that we recommend to the city council, have funding for improvements as proposed by engineering
Can we vote now?
and installed.
Okay, all TMAC members in favor?
Yep.
Any opposed? Great, thank you for that.
You go fast and lose Robert's rules.
Abbreviated version of Robert's rules. Okay, our
Not
big.
Kahan's rules.
Okay.
That was
Our biggest item for today, we wanted to leave plenty of time for, Fern and others will be presenting to us about the Provo River Bridge and Trail project. And we're excited to hear the information that they have for us.
Okay. We have wonderful attendance today. Thank you for taking the time out. Let me introduce the three of us that's tag teaming this. Dave Nicholson, one of our staff engineers, who's the project manager for the design of the Provo River Bridge. And then Thomas McMurtry with Avenue Consultants, who has assisted us in background information for travel modeling as well as public information that will be on the project. Just as information item, our bridge designers are under contract, and that is AECom, and they're a consulting firm out of Salt. So today we'll just go through our. Which one is it? There we go. Thank you. Okay, should be able to see you guys. So we're going to talk about. I'm going to talk about the first two items on the agenda, and then Dave's going to talk about the cross sections and bridge location options. Thomas is going to end up with the public involvement, and then we can take any questions then, or we can take them all anytime throughout the presentation.
Isn't that a pretty picture? We took that with our drone the first week of April. That's great. Nice. Okay to do that, go ahead.
So let's get a little background on the Provo River Bridge itself and talk a little bit about our goals. Of course, our goals is to improve safety, right? We have a structure that's deficient and that we need to improve before it falls down. We do need better sidewalks, trails, and bike lanes and connectivity. That will improve as well, and we'll talk about some of those deficiencies that exist now. Then we want to right-size the bridge for the 75-year life cycle. Here's what the Provo River Bridge looks like today. You can see that it is older. Sidewalks are narrow, the parapet's shorter. You know, there's some issues we'll talk about. Constructed in 1960, it's about 80 feet long, 40 feet wide. We took our counters and did our average daily traffic is about just a little over 11,000, so 11,300. Design life for this bridge is somewhere between 50 and 70 years. We're at 65. So we're right there. National Bridge Inventory lists 4 deficiencies associated with this structure. We have the transition standards, which everybody is very familiar with. The approach guardrails, the bridge guardrail ends, and then we've talked about deck geometry also is deficient. So we do have some standards that we need to fix, and of course, when this was built in 1960, bridge construction standards have come a long way. Our existing issues with Provo River Trail, those that use this will recognize that the trail is at its narrowest point when it goes underneath the 820 bridge. The trail is about 8 to 16 feet, depending on where it's at, from the lake all the way up to Provo Canyon. But in this particular case, you can also see the vertical clearance is not good. The trail grade coming up and out of there exceeds the percent that we try to be at, which is less than 8%. And our connectivity to 800 North is not great. So we want to improve those things. Up on top, our sidewalk width is narrow. Everybody very much aware of that. The connectivity in a couple locations, especially on the the northwest side, does not have any connection whatsoever on the sidewalk. Bike lane width is not meeting our AASHTO standards of 6 feet. Parapet height is low, so someone that's top heavy like me certainly could take a plunge very easily. Weight limit, okay, I'm not there on the weight limit, but anyway, the 31 tons is sufficient that way. And then sight distance, and I think that's what most people are familiar with, is the sight distance issue. We got a lot of things to balance here. I think Dave's going to talk a little bit about this in a little bit, but between the river itself and not altering the stream and being able to get the bridge high enough where we have clearance underneath on the trail and get the bridge where we have good distance and view, all those three things kind of conflict, and there's a couple other things that go with that. So
with the sidewalk width on either side of the bridge, there's a total of 5 feet of concrete. But the outside 15 inches is taken up by that big, steel parapet. And so the sidewalk is really only 3.5 feet wide. You can't walk next to somebody from there. And then it doesn't connect at all. Like that upper right-hand photo is the northwest side where the sidewalk is.
Connectivity. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about the planning context. We do have in our transportation master plan a trail that would be on the road south side of 820. It does connect all the way from Geneva to 500 West, so connecting State Route 114 and State Route 189 or 89. And we connect those two roads, and this had it in the plan for a while now, but it's not realized yet. We do have bike lanes on there. We do have some infrastructure you can see on the right-hand side. That's one of our wells, right? And we have to keep a setback of that structure as well, and that public works facility. Everybody enjoys the Provo River Trail. It is one of the gems of Utah County, right? Not just Provo City, but all of Utah County. It's a gem. And we need to improve that trail through this bottleneck right here.
By the way, this section of the trail has over 200,000 trail users a year. It's probably somewhere between maybe 210 and 250,000. Last year, like crossing the bridge, we saw about 200 to 210,000, and that was an increase of 23% over the year before. So from 22 to 23, we saw a 23% increase in trail users on this section. It's a huge number.
Thomas, why don't you go ahead and talk about our active transportation users across the river bridge?
Yeah, and so that's just the 200 plus thousand are just kind of on the trail right here. And then on 820 North itself, it connects like so much, from the east to the west, and it has over 100,000 annual users. So I don't know the exact number. We've done some counts and we're kind of like interpolating it up, but it's a lot. It ends up being, about 300 plus a day, and we multiply that times 365, we get kind of 100,000. But I feel very confident in that number that there's 100,000 users, bikes and heads crossing the bridge every day. And by the way, which I think is just kind of a fun anecdote. I'm sorry?
Every year?
Yes, annual, yeah. Every year.
You said every day, so I just
You're
want to
right.
make sure
That's
that
good.
there wasn't a marathon.
300 a day, 100,000 a year. One thing I just think is kind of like fun, just kind of throw it out there, is when we counted all the people using the trail, we marked whether they were on a scooter, on a stroller, if they were walking a dog, if they were going north-south. We have all kinds of data. We have data on if they were male or female. And I found it interesting that 50% of the trail users right here were male, and 44% of the trail users were female. And you might note that that's a 6% difference. And, it's because 6% of all the trail users were inside of a stroller. They were like little children.
That's the trail under the bridge.
Yeah, under the bridge.
Okay.
That under the bridge is hard because it's so steep, that you get going too fast, and then you come up with the narrow access on the other side, and I sometimes just jump off because I'm afraid that,
You gotta yell ahead and
Yeah.
hope the person on the other side doesn't have headphones in.
yeah. I'm like, I'll just walk.
Thank you, appreciate that additional statistics there. Let's move on. Let's talk about the roadway itself. This, I need to update a little bit, but it's been on the plan since 1977 as an arterial. 820 North is both an arterial and a minor arterial. West of the University Avenue, it's supposed to be an arterial, and east of University Avenue, it's supposed to be a minor arterial. I got a couple of things to fix on the map. And we have two different cross sections, one for minor arterial and one for arterial, and we'll make sure that we get the arterial one in there. But this is the minor arterial here that we're showing. And so it's important to realize that this connects Geneva Road all the way over to 7th East. And if you jog just a hair more, it goes to 9th East, right? So Geneva to 9th East, basically. What was that, Beth?
If you jog just a hair
Yeah.
off onto 620, it'll take you all the way to the parkway.
Take you all the way out there, right?
And this cross section is just, is it Provo's or is it the national center?
This is Provo's Transportation Master Plan for minor arterials. We'll also insert the arterial one and get in here.
So of note is the 50-foot pavement section. You'll notice there's no striping on the cross section for minor arterial. And that gives the city some flexibility on how they use that pavement. Bike lanes and travel lanes.
There's not a minimum number of directional lanes in an arterial? So you could just have it be two on each way?
225.
You can have arterials 5 lanes, you can have arterials more, 7 lanes, I mean, you see them, right? Really starts to think about the amount of traffic you're carrying. So in our transportation master plan, we do have a capital facilities section, on 820 north from 5th West University Avenue. That is planned to be widened. And I will tell you, inflation has taken a hit on us. We've only implemented 20% of our transportation master plan since 2020, and when this was adopted. One of the reasons is there's been other priorities in the city. We have a wonderful new airport. We have an epic park that's about to be opened here this fall. And when we see things like that, there's sacrifices that are made. And then inflation really is also a big hit, right? Some of the things we're seeing on the cost of bids are coming in way over engineers' cost estimate, even with 25 to 30%. So it will remain in the capital facilities plan. That's the first segment that really needs to be widened. When we get to the rest of it, you'll see the 820 north, 950 west to 800 west. That's the bridge. We have funding for that. And then finally, on 820 north from Geneva Road to 500 west. And that also has time frame to be determined for widening, but it's way in phase 2. You'll see in a little bit, I'll show you when that starts to be really needed for increased volume. So, yes.
On that one. So the bridge was actually is a phase 2 project, but it's being bumped up because of urgency.
Yeah, and we did receive funding for that, not funding for the other one, which is more funding for the bridge than the other project. And that number right there of 5 million, I would say, Thomas, just off the top of my head, that's,
Bangor Highway is, changing to interchanges. Just to give you a sense on inflation, they did the 5400 South one was one of the earlier interchanges that was built in Bangor Highway. That cost $45 million. They're currently constructing the 4700 South interchange on Bangor Highway. The final cost on that was $153 million, almost 4 times. So basically the same product.
All these numbers, 2018, 2019-ish figures.
Yeah, and they're out of date, yep.
When you said you received funding, where does funding for the bridge come from?
So this funding is filtered through MAG and through Utah County. So we had an interlocal agreement through Utah County, that transportation tax that we all pay, that's the funds that's gonna pay for this bridge. We have a minor match of about 7%.
So maybe you covered this yesterday. It's today.
Thursday.
It was a long meeting.
It was.
Yeah.
So the design of the bridge depends, presumes the widening of 820 north at least from 500 west of University Avenue, right?
I think it presumes that there is going to be a need for a widened structure in 75 years. So what I'm about to show you in the next slide or two is going to show when that occurs, right? We have a little bit better idea when that occurs based upon other circumstances. So
I guess I'm just kind of wondering about the funding issue in part and also the political issue, which is another issue thing. If it's triple that, and we don't fund it for who knows how long, and we build a bridge, I just envisioning this simple little road, and suddenly it's like, metastasized bridge, and it's sitting there for 10 years like that. Is that what we're contemplating as a possibility?
yeah, and I think what we'll show you is a transitional, we'll show you a transitional cross-section that will be beneficial to accommodate something that's not just sitting there ugly for 10 years. And Dave's gonna show.
What if it's 30 years? That's part of the question.
Yeah.
Well, in 30 years, Greg, I'm gonna show you there is a need before the 30 years. So if we go and talk a little bit about the Provo Transportation Master Plan, back in 2000, we developed a plan with livability street standards. And no one else was doing this at the time. In fact, I know no one in the state of Utah that's adopted livability standards in their transportation master plan. They just go by the IT trip generation.
City
Capacity and stuff.
has it, but they're not part of their master plan. It's a state, in little document. They're the only ones.
So we explored, we took videos, we tried to show the council and the planning commission at that time what different levels of service looked like on a local street. And the council adopted that, and we have 1,400 to 1,800 trips per day was deemed acceptable on their local streets. What they did get into a little bit was getting into the arterials. The collectors, we do have a lot of homes in front on collectors, and we do on arterials too, but the arterials have been there quite some time. This arterial, 13.5, okay, is livability street standard for 33,000, right? And so depending on whether that's a major or minor arterial, really jumps up. And when we look at access spacing, that is really what determines the conflicts. Do we have a lot of driveways? Do we have a lot of public streets, every block accessing 820 north? Or is it limited, like Lakeview Parkway will be? We're only gonna have public streets, we'd like to mostly be signalized connections, but there'll be public streets that will be pretty distant, okay? So limited access, I-15, you just have the on-ramps and off-ramps. So they could carry more vehicles, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that is livable. So arterials is hard to create a livable standard because they're arterials, they're bigger roadways. And they certainly play into local streets. Yes, Beth?
So a livable standard, I guess I'm confused on what that means. Like, what does that entail? What does that mean? Just means how many cars pass your house a day?
Yeah, so there's a capacity of the roadway.
Yeah.
And the physical capacity of the roadway is much more than these numbers here. It gets up to limited conflicts. I mean, even with a local street, it can carry a lot more than 1,800 vehicles per day.
So you're talking about like,
based on a two-lane cross-section.
Maintenance versus how many cars people actually want to go by their house every day.
Based upon the traffic volume going by their home, yes. So, big question is, and a lot of people want to know, is what's our traffic growth? What's happening on 800, 820 North in those locations? So, we did traffic counts recently in January. We're over 11,000 vehicles per day, and that's right here at 2024. Growth is continuing to occur on the west side. We have upgraded our sewer system over there, right? And we're upgrading our sewer treatment plant. And we just put in a lift station over there that will really catch most of the entire west side of I-15. There's going to be growth, and there is growth occurring. So between Center Street in Provo and 2000 North in Provo, or 2000 South in Orem, the only access under or over I-15 is currently 820. So where are these people going to go?
Actually, a lot of us avoid it, and go north or south, and we don't even come to Provo.
Some go north up to Parkway, but we all know what Parkway is like. And
Or
some
take
go
the back road
south
up to
to
Orem
Center.
and spend all your money in Orem and not in Provo.
And unfortunately, we all know what Center Street design looks like, right? So when we get up to about 2030, we're probably looking at some livability street standards and pushing the envelope there. When we get up to here, this is kind of a 2033 is phase 2 of MAG's long-range plan. Without an interchange, this is kind of the growth that we see with the 5-lane facility. Stays fairly modest, keep it around 20,000 up to 2050. If UDOT, who is yet to do their environmental analysis, decides that 820 is the location to put in the interchange, this is the traffic volume that you experience.
Why is there a plateau on both of them around 2040 or something?
The model only exists on years 32, 42, and 52. So we only have 3 points, and we just straight lined up the 20. So we have a point in 2032, 2042, and 2050. In between.
So it's not a line, it's 3 different points. Yeah. Presumably it plateaus because MAG isn't putting more people in Provo after that point.
Yeah, something like that, or the fact that, you know, you're kind of near capacity, and so drivers will not choose to drive on.
Congested already, so they're using other routes or picking other destinations.
There's not any contemplation in those numbers about, you know, improved mass transit or electric car system.
Yeah,
or-
well, there certainly is.
Yep.
All that's kind of taken into account. Yeah, in fact, I would guess the transit numbers probably, you know, double by 2052 as well, and, but, yeah, we're still doing that. So.
Yeah,
Well, that's probably not, I quibble a lot with their transit forecast and their long-range model. They don't rely on them a lot. And what's really key is that people in the Wasatch Front model don't choose their destinations. They don't choose their modes until after they've chosen their destinations.
That's true.
So if you have really good transit connection somewhere, people only see that the highways are congested, which it's a very non-standard way of doing a model. I've told them this, they know this. But the answer is they try to, but no. The transit is not like a transit-focused future is not represented in these forecasts.
This is what we use because this is the adopted travel demand model adopted by Wasatch Front Regional Council, which is the Salt Lake MPO, and Mountain Land Association Governments, which is our Utah County MPO. It also has air quality conformity analysis by the Federal Highway Administration, so we're actually required to use this travel model.
I'm not saying you shouldn't use it. What I'm saying is that methodologically, it has serious flaws that don't account for the questions you were
Well,
talking
if there's no infrastructure for any of that in place, how can they use it in modeling?
Well, it's
So there's,
yeah.
in the case of transit, there is infrastructure, right? We got rail lines, we got bus lines, you know, we can.
No, but nothing out west to be able to.
It's modeled in there, so they've added.
They've
So
added.
while we're showing adding the interchange here, they're adding up over $5 billion worth of projects. Not just this interchange, but they're adding like 8 more interchanges on I-15. There's one, and there's the new one in Transport, there's the new one in Santa Clara, and then also all the new transit lines. There's light rail to Saratoga Springs. It's all in the model.
So it's all in the model that the projects that are actually on the board going to happen are in the
I'll
model,
assume that
but
they
not any
probably-
future possible alternative transportation to be, or in.
Well, their long-range plan includes all that type of stuff. And so, you know, there's extended, front runner down to Payson, like everything that they've planned, everything that they've thought of, that it can kind of fit in that
I guess why I'm asking is because when we talk about east-west connectivity, and yes, this bridge is kind of a key point in the start of this discussion, I think, is that east-west connectivity, I know BRT at one point was gonna come all the way around and go out to the airport. It's still? Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
I know there was some.
Then it's in the model.
Okay, so it's in the model, but other than like BRT and an interchange there is no like trail system, no upgraded active transportation going from west, not just the BRT or anything like that, but like actual connectivity from west.
If you're curious about every single project that's in there, you can go to maplearning.org and they'll have the map. They include all of the planned active transportation projects. Like all of the new trails are also in the model as well. And so
Okay, so I guess my question is there plan to connect West and East Provo better than what it is now?
Yes, but Vern went over those. So for example, on 820, right, on this one.
But not just 820, are there other?
It would be whatever your city adopted
Master
transportation.
plan, there's only one more access across I-15, that's 17. I have serious doubt that will ever happen because of the grade situation there.
Okay,
You
so
either have to
there-
go up or over, up and over, or down and under.
Yeah. Okay, so there's only one other access in the future plan. Okay, that was my question. Thank you.
And so these are the numbers we're looking at, given everything that is already on the plan, that's
In the long range.
in the long-range plan, okay.
Okay, let's move on, and this will show you what's in the long-range plan. The bridge obviously is, we got funding for that for next year. The other portion of the corridor is now, but the funding's not available until 2033. So when you saw that we originally planned in our transportation master plan that it would be before 2024, that was consistent with MAG's previous plan. Funding did not stretch as far, and so it got pushed to phase 2 in the funding. So we know that our project's gonna get pushed to phase 2 as well. And then, same thing with the 820 North interchange that UDOT will be looking at, and I shouldn't say UDOT, MAG has it in their plan at 820 North. UDOT is not gonna do that. UDOT is gonna look at every single facility that meets FHWA standards between Center Street and Provo and University Parkway and Provo. So let me just rattle off some names that connect over there. 200, 500, 700, or 800 of roads that they'll look at in the environmental analysis. 1460, 1730, 2000, they'll won't leave any stone unturned when they do their analysis. And it's environmental. So that's the environmental impact statement. And it's not fully funded, and that's why it's not done yet, and that's why they haven't started it, is because they don't have fully funds to do it. Furthermore, there's a couple EISs going on in Utah County right now, mostly South County, that is taking up the UDOT, personnel.
Management bandwidth.
Yeah. And quite a few up north. Believe it or not, Davis County has a lot. And if you understand policy at the state legislature and who the leadership is and where they live, you'll understand that why there's so many EISs in Davis and Morgan County. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to, and I can go through you, just let me know, Dave, and he's gonna talk a little bit about potential cross sections.
So, like Vern showed at the very beginning, this is the, a prettier picture of what the existing bridge looks like right now. We've got 30 feet of asphalt on top of the bridge, 3.5-foot sidewalks with 15-inch railings. There's not a lot of room to play with right here. We're well aware of the deficiencies that we're facing here. The next one. So as a minor arterial, this is what a bridge section could look like, being striped for 3 lanes. So you'd have 12-foot lanes, 7-foot bike lanes, a 10-foot. It says trails, but they're most likely going to be sidewalks on 10 on the south, 6 on the north, and that's kind of what we would look like. In the case that if we were to build this size of bridge, in the case of future widenings, we can go to the next one, a potential occurrence may be that we would utilize the remainder of the bridge in this way and utilize it for 5 lanes of traffic, and have to be in that position to sacrifice actual transportation to prioritize vehicle traffic. And this would be putting 10-foot lanes for all the travel lanes through here.
Why do you need a 2-way left turn lane?
What's that?
Why do you need the turn lane?
We're not exactly
clear
sure
distance.
how much space we're gonna need for that, depending on the access to the driveways, in terms of like the taper distance. You know, the bridge is also gonna expand, its length a little from where it is, and so just figuring out how much space we need to be able to left on either side. Like on the bridge itself, there's no turn left, but just, I don't know what that is in the taper distance. It might not be fully free and available for bike lanes, for example. You might.
Can you toggle between the two, this one and the one you have?
Absolutely.
Why do you have a 10-foot trail on one side and a 6-foot?
So,
I'm gonna ask that question.
yeah, so typically our standard for sidewalk is 6 foot, and that's what we would maintain on the north side. On the south side, we do have in our plan, our transportation master plan, to have a 10-foot trail along that south side.
And that goes all the way along the road?
Correct.
So it's
Yeah.
not just the bridge.
Shouldn't be all the way.
Well, the difference between these two is where the road surface ends and the trail starts.
No, it's just the It's stripe. bike lane. Just check the bike lanes.
Yeah,
Look at the bike lanes disappear.
you get rid of
Oh,
it.
okay, 1 lane and a bike lane, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And this gets really tight. We should get rid of the median and get our 11-foot travel lanes back, but there is no room for it.
At 30 miles an hour, you don't need 11 feet.
You probably right,
That big of a
10 might
clear
be
distance.
Well,
well,
right
Yeah,
now
probably.
it's 25, but it will be designed probably for a higher facility.
The median, you might be able to pinch it, but my guess, based on other bridge work that we're doing near some of the roads and on the access streets, you probably would need at least 4 to 6 feet in that traverse space, depending on the tapers and how it's gonna work.
Yeah.
You're still 6 feet back here. But, yeah.
How close to the bridge was that hit and run fatality?
Right on 30
On the
feet.
bridge, right?
It was not on the bridge. It was on the road called
A50 west,
50
just
West.
east of the bridge.
She was crossing that road as a jogger going westbound and got hit by a vehicle that was turning left going westbound.
One of the worst intersections I've run into Provo.
It's not a good intersection, and in fact, Dave's gonna address that, when we start looking at potential designs.
Can you go back? So forgive me, this is obvious to everyone else, but as someone who usually is biking with children around Provo, what is the advantage of having bike lanes separate from like a 10-foot multi-use trail? Like, why not? Like on 90s, we have, those two huge ones. Why have the trail bike lane and trail bike lane, why not combine them?
Well, because biking for transportation next to people who are biking with their kids for recreation
ideal.
is not ideal.
I think we've all
For
had this
either of us.
conversation a couple months ago with the different types of electric vehicles that we're seeing, and they come up pretty doggone fast.
Well, I'm gonna be commuting over this bridge for the rest of my life, and I would never use the trail. I would use the bike lane
And you
every
would
time.
leave the trail for joggers and
Yeah,
moms and kids.
exactly, yeah.
So Greg, some of the examples I showed, from.
That's right, yeah. You can do something, right?
You can have like a slightly elevated pedestrian path with the bike.
With a bike lane
next door,
adjustment.
and you have it really well marked.
But if you sell it, if you separate it with a railing or a guard, that removes that ability to
The
pick up.
problem is that most bikers are gonna be on the road, and unless there's like,
And they should be.
unless the path takes them off the road onto the pedestrian trail as they're going over the bridge, they're gonna stay on the bridge.
That's right.
And if there's a path anyway, and if there's not a path, it's gonna be confusing unless you direct them. So the bike path suddenly ends when you get to the bridge, because you go with that other model.
I'll merge into the lane
Yeah, you're gonna have
and
to
just
figure out how to direct
have to
those.
yell at everyone honking at me for, I'll make sure I go really
Well,
slow.
a lot of bikers are gonna see it, and go, well, I'm just gonna dash across this thing because it's only.
50 feet longer, it's 100 feet longer or whatever.
It sounds like you guys are advocating for maybe slightly wider than for their arterial.
So I'll get
I think we don't want to give us a bike lane.
I'm just trying to, like, those usage numbers were high enough. And it was interesting to see that, like, half of them are essentially women and children. You know, that's a huge percentage, and that's under the bridge still, but still, like, I would feel so much safer having that barrier between my kids biking and the road.
Yeah.
But then if someone's a commuter on an e-bike, then you're saying, let me be on the road. So really, we're accommodating in the first cross section, like, multiple different kinds of active transportation and possibly emerging technologies as
That's
well.
right.
Let's go ahead and get to the cross-section that would accommodate everything.
So then this would be our arterial, this is our standard Provo City's adopted arterial road section of 78 feet of pavement. And this would allow for 12 foot. Now, this is the widest that we would go, matching the arterial. There is fluff here that we could eliminate to make this a little bit in the happy medium between the two. Part of the reason to look at this option is in the future, something that we're not determining now, and where we're placing the bridge is to allow for the future alignment of the widening of 820 North to be flexible, where we could push it north, we could match the existing center line and take both sides, or we could push it south and take that side. And since that's not being determined at this time, a wider bridge like this provides the option to do so, to have that flexibility in the future. But this would provide comfort and accessibility for all modes of transportation over the bridge. And yes, this is something wide, and we may not need the 5 lane for another 5 to 10 years. And so this cross section, let's go to the next slide. We can pop back here, but this bridge could be transitional. And so can I stand up in this meeting?
Yeah,
I'll just talk about it.
Wait.
So,
Can't use laser pointer, they won't work on the.
Yeah. So if we were to use a wider bridge section here, what we would do in the interim, and this is why this bridge could be, we'll say semi-permanent. It could be here for 10 years until we widen, or it could be here for 30 years. But doing something like this provides the flexibility of leaving something in place for that time. So we would put in safety barriers that would reduce that roadway section over the bridge. But rather than it being so wide and feeling like there's a sea of asphalt, the road would feel as it is now, very narrow and not providing that excess space. In that excess space that we would have, we would look at putting seating on the bridge or planters or bike racks or other facilities that haven't been determined yet, but it's something that we could utilize to beautify the bridge in the short term, depending on if that's 10 or 30 years, whenever that widening would occur. But it gives us the flexibility to do something beautiful in the interim. So that's yet to be determined, but that's something that we are considering if we go with this wider bridge, something like that.
I'm guessing you've looked at costs on both. I'm guessing it's not linear.
We haven't looked at costs yet because of the process that we're taking with this, so taking public comment and whatnot. We haven't dove into that yet. I will start the process with my structural team beginning next week to start looking at some high-level cost estimates. We believe that when we applied for MAC funding, we applied for the full, it was actually 90 feet of bridge that we applied for of pavement. And so we believe even with inflation that we'll probably be covered with the funding that we have for a bridge this wide. But that has not been determined yet.
A question.
Yes.
Is there enough room, on the east and west side of this road, on the north and south side of the east and west sides of this road, to have a road of this wide without having to take out?
We're already showing taking one property.
Yeah, you see the full extent dashed line on the.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
And we own that property. Dave, you want to point to that property?
Yeah, so this is a concept from our consultant. This is not one of our concepts. This is just where they put the bridge structure. So let's move forward 2 slides, Vern, here, and we'll look at some potential So like I said, we're looking at options to keep it where there's flexibility for the road in the future, but let's just move on from that. You can kind of see, so I'll go through 3 slides of this. I have 25 concept plans, and I will not show all of them, because some of them are ridiculous and some of them are so minuscule and change you won't notice. But this is showing that minor arterial on the top and the arterial on the south. And for this project, the Provo River Bridge and Trail project, our extent is 800 west to 1,000 west. That is all that we're looking at right now. So you can see these darker lines is kind of like what we would transition back into the existing facilities in this conceptual layout. So in this either plan, and you can go to the next one, Vern, we'll kind of just any of these concepts and where the bridge will most likely land. The only properties that will be affected is this first house on the south side of the river will most likely have to go. And then we are working with this property owner on the north here to try to get this property to build this cul-de-sac. We're in the process of working with that owner right now.
Just a lot, gravel and dirt.
Correct, it's an empty lot. Yeah. So that's kind of what we're looking at right here. And like I said, is where we position the bridge. Go to the next one.
Can I ask why you want to put a cul-de-sac there?
Yeah, I'll get.
So that there's not access coming out so
Yeah,
close
so
to
you
the
can
bridge?
see on the north there, I have a cul-de-sac shown, and on the south side, I have kind of a curve there. I don't know what the final look of that on the south side will be, but our intent is to close 900 west and 850 west from accessing it.
In any option.
And any option that we do for the bridge, those two, our goal is
There
to
is a
close
road already
access
there where that.
to prevent that site distance issues, any of the turn conflicts that we have seen in the past.
You may have a grade issue too.
If you make it that big.
Yeah.
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 So this layout is closer to the one that we are narrowing down. A lot of the things that, like Vernon talked about, we are considering. We have our storm outfall here on the south side, 96-inch pipe. It kind of runs under the road this direction here. We have to consider that. We have our well right there that we're considering. And there's obviously the grade. We want to reduce the height of the bridge, bring that down, but we also have to balance the trail underneath and things. So there's a lot of things that are going in behind the scenes that we're trying to balance with this bridge. Another big component is because this could be here for 10 to 30 years, we want to make sure that the interim striping, semi-permanent striping, I'll say, is going to be safe and be comfortable for everyone. So you could see something like this, you'd have to come up and kind of, you'd wiggle your way across the bridge. So this may not be the ideal. Just go back to Vern. Or this, yeah, go back to that one. This one you see it'd be nice and sweeping and be very comfortable. So those are all factors that are going into where we're placing this. But no matter what size we build, most likely that we will end up taking just this house that the city already has procured in this space.
The city already owns
Yeah, we own that home. They just approved.
They only have, yeah, they own 4.
We own these first 4.
I have a quick question. You said you wanted to lower the bridge. The river trail underneath it, is that kind of like the lowest point? Because I know it floods a lot under there.
So there are options with that. Ideally, we do like when we have our trails underneath the bridge. If you've gone over on the Lakeview Parkway ones over the Delta and the Provo River, both of them are open to the river. We like that feel. We don't have to do it that way, and we can push the river trail lower below the floodplain if we enclose it. And if we do that, we'll make it wide and make it sure that it's seeable and safe. But there are options there that we can do. If we push it lower and keep it open, it will flood.
Yeah.
And so
I was thinking, could we raise it? But it sounds like we can't raise it.
Well, you want to lower it because of the visibility for traffic above, right? So there's not so much of an arc.
You want the deck of the bridge to be at the roadway level. Otherwise, you have to build really long embankments.
And so, trying to minimize the scale of this property, we don't want to have to chase it forever and impact more properties. So that's what we're trying to minimize is that height elevation of the bridge.
Did you have a question?
I'm not sure that we're qualified to ask these questions, but
Yes, we are.
what's the current average speed of traffic across the bridge?
Not asking what the speed limit is, we're asking what the
The
current
speed limit
average
is
speed
25, I believe. I believe our 85th is 30,
33?
It's higher.
it's higher than that.
Why through that bridge?
It's 36.
People are already going 36 on the bridge. How fast do you anticipate people will cross it if you take the straightest approach and add 2 lanes each way?
No, it'd probably be a speed limit of 35. You know how we design things. We design speed at a little bit higher speed, and then we post it at 35. That works.
But how fast do you expect people will use the bridge?
Well, it depends on which option and the angle of that bridge.
Because that last picture you showed me, I said, that's a road I can go 50 on.
You were right about that.
Yeah,
And people will go 50 on that.
that's what I think will happen.
I mean, you set the design speed, you give yourself a factor of safety, but what happens is people drive the design speed because they're comfortable driving at that speed, because you designed the road for that speed, right? So that's a bigger conversation than this discussion here, that's civil engineering worldwide, but.
But anyway, the direction of my questioning is simply to point that out, that like if you don't design traffic calming measures, I'm seeing a road that people are gonna go 50 on, I would go 50 on it. And that's not a safe speed to drive in that neighborhood. And if people were going 50 past my house, I'd be really upset, but if I'm in a car going to the west side, I'd go 50. So,
So
for what it's worth.
the calming measures that they posted, like if we actually, if they do build the bridge as wide as they can and put the benches and the, I'm calling them calming measures because that's what they are, would you still go
If
through?
it's a straight road, 5 lanes, and I got a wide view on both sides, I'm going 50.
So,
Well, it wouldn't be a
Would that be like,
road at that
you're like
point,
driving
it would
through
still be a
pedestrian
2-lane
parkway.
with the calming measures, like.
Right, okay, so when it looks like that, yeah, I'd probably go slower. It depends, it honestly depends how straight it is, how clear my field, and I don't wanna sound like a scofflaw. I consider myself a typical driver,
You are typical
and,
driver.
and I don't, none of us like to admit that we drive this way, but most of us have our phones out while we're going 50 and a 35 too. So, like, it's not safe.
Yeah.
And it's not safe for multimodal users, it's not safe for people on scooters, bikes, pedestrians. But if it looks safe and it feels safe, that's how fast we're driving.
Let's do this. Let me go to the last slide here. Thomas is leaving right now. He's
I gotta go pick
a little bit of a handout, so let's just get to that last slide and then we'll continue discussion.
Well, my wife's been saying, otherwise she would be doing that, so I'm fortunate that I'm. So, you guys.
Unfortunately, you're not in Spain.
So you guys have learned probably, you're some of the first people to see this discussion on the 820 bridge. We're just starting to like roll this out and start to have the discussion. As part of the work that the city is doing, that includes doing public outreach. So we want to start sharing this information with the public. We're talking to you guys, we're going to go to the planning commission soon and others. And so we want to, listen to people's ideas. We want to be proactive about information that we can share and be as transparent about everything that we're looking at. Because we are aware that there will be those exact concerns that you're voicing about, what's going to happen to the neighborhoods and the streets. So we do have a plan to kind of like work through that. Our first is this informing stakeholders. You guys are the TMAC, you're kind of seeing this. So over the rest of April and into May, we're going to be going out and having some meetings where we now with people kind of share the same presentation, walking through why the bridge needs to be replaced and those types of things. And then from the spring going into the summer, we're going to work on neighborhood outreach. So besides meeting with neighbors and neighborhoods, we're also going to be attending pop-up events and ultimately scheduling a big kind of public meeting, a big open house. That might be this summer. We already talked about maybe there's some value in waiting until school starts so more people can come and participate and see everything we're looking at with the bridge. We also are just to date are now kind of rolling out citywide information so that anybody in Provo or beyond can learn about this. So I just gave you a handout, and on that photo you can see there's a project website we set up, ProvoRiverBridge.com. You can go there and say, I'll tell you the site's under construction. It's up and running, but there's not much there. But one thing that is there is the contact us information. So anybody from the public or anyone at all can send us an email or call the hotline. Allison will likely be the person to answer, or Stacy answering the phone if people start calling and asking questions about it. As we roll out more information, so for example, I've shared with you guys some of the traffic volumes and some of the bike head users on there. we're gonna put that information on the website, we're gonna start sharing it. We started an FAQ, so a frequently asked questions portion of the website as well. So people who have questions like, what's going on, is my property impacted, we're gonna like have information up there for that. So we're just kind of getting started now. We did scope putting mailers out to everybody in the corridor, so as we get ready for the public meeting, everybody will get postcards and invited personally to come meet. We're also gonna share information in utility bills and kind of everything. So there's a whole detailed rollout plan so that everyone can be informed and share their opinions and as we go through. And again, I apologize, I am already late to go get my son.
Okay, back to, Louise.
You were gonna say something, do you want to say what you're
No,
gonna say?
just back to questions.
I just am wondering what this public outreach is hoping to accomplish. Do you think that you're going to get a wide range of people, or you're just gonna get neighbors who are like, I don't want this on my street, or how do you hope to take the what public input do you hope to get, and what do you hope to do with that input?
We hope to get citywide input, not just for one faction or one neighborhood, but citywide input. The bridge is gonna be there for 75 years. It really impacts the entire city. Some of our modeling shows that, and this is all preliminary stuff, but it shows that we have a problem on Center Street in downtown Provo, right? We have a lot of traffic, over 23,000 vehicles a day are using downtown Center Street on 9, probably. If we get a pedestrian, if we ever hope to reduce traffic on Center Street, we will need other east-west connections.
I would encourage you in this public outreach to focus a lot on the fact that the bridge, like it's in the National Bridge Inventory, it's not a good bridge. It needs to be replaced right now. And we think the design will help us look for the future, but even in the present, that the design you showed with the park benches overlooking the river, like that, if we never widen 800 North, it's still a good facility. Right, and that's really the message that I would encourage you to, like, we have to replace this bridge. We're designing it in a way that's going to be sustainable, and it's going to be great in the interim, no matter what we do.
Yeah, that's why I'm asking some of the questions I've been asking. I think there's this anxiety that the bridge is the Trojan horse. You know, once we build the bridge, we have to do the connector, we have to do widening the whole thing. And I think helping people understand what the immediate concerns of the bridge are. Is really important, and then, you know, acknowledging that we are going to have a conversation, you know, phase 2 and phase 3 that are going to be coming. They are going to be conversations we have, but I think otherwise people are going to pick this bridge as a symbolic battle that maybe they don't.
Less about the interchange conversation and more
Yeah,
about
right.
the immediate
I think
need
you
of
can-
pedestrian and.
I mean, I think most of the people I've talked to who are opposed to the interchange are in favor of the bridge because they understand the difference, but I think a lot of people who are hearing about it for the first time and haven't been part of the conversation are probably gonna go, have we already made the decision?
And I look at that too, because my question was formed on, I can't see any of my neighbors caring about a bridge on 820 North because that's not where they're gonna cross. They're so far south that they don't care about anything that's beyond Center Street to get across. So I think if you saw, like Greg was saying, if you present it as Provo really only has 2 accesses across the freeway and this is one of them, we wanna make it good. Well, this isn't across the freeway, but across the river.
And I think my question was even different than that. Like this bridge is structurally unsound. It's going to collapse in a decent earthquake or a big flood. And it's terrible for biking on. Like it's unsafe in both directions, and it's like the most traffic bike junction in the city, right? Yeah, and we've had a fatal crash there, and like all these things. So the bridge needs to be replaced. And what we're going to do is we're going to do it in the most sustainable way possible. We're going to build a structure that meets our future needs, regardless of what they are. You know, if you care a lot about the traffic growth, the bridge can accommodate that. If you want a pleasant place to sit and watch the Provo River, our current design is going to let that happen as long as we can make it happen. And I think is a more palatable message to more people in Provo City than we've got lots of traffic coming and we've got to prepare for it. Because it's like, we could just not have the traffic. Like, we could
still only have
like, you're never gonna have more traffic than the road is gonna support, right? It'll just be there.
And that's, we have lots of modeling numbers and data, and like you said, Greg, we could show all that, but how many, really, I mean, what's that matter? If you got a bridge that's falling down, right? And so I think that is the message that we need to share. And we also need to share the message that, look, this is not setting precedent for the interchange. UDOT has their own environmental process that they're gonna go through. And they have made it very clear, if you called UDOT today and asked them, there's gonna be an interchange at 820 North, they tell you, we don't know. We gotta do an EIS. And they'll look at lots of alternatives.
I think this is complicated because there are so many things that are out of our control, and we're trying to look 75 years in the future. I think we really need to be wise and flexible and not, and I think that's where we're getting to, right?
Yeah, build something that's the best thing you can for now,
But
but
also,
also that can be flexible in the future.
we have to be mindful of that.
Do you have an idea of where your funding's gonna come? Is it gonna be MAG funding? Is it gonna be city budget?
We
Is it?
secured the funding, so it will be coming from.
So the public input is not gonna be about whether they value this to spend the
Right.
money on it.
Correct.
The public is just the design.
And that's the opportunity we have, is we have this available funding from MAG to, kind of like what Greg's saying, to build a bridge that's gonna be sustainable for our needs now and in any potential future that we have.
Okay, so if you already have the funding, why do you need it to go through the public process?
It's only the right thing to do. There's a lot of people out there that think, your city's just gonna build this and we're gonna build an interchange. We have nothing to do with the interchange. We wanna go out there and share with the public, this is gonna be a community benefit. It's gonna provide
It's
better.
not gonna not sway
transportation.
UDOT though, I feel. I feel like there will be something, UDOT will say, oh, look, a nice 100-foot cross-section.
This will be included in the alternatives
Yeah.
analysis as a
Yeah.
pro for the
It
820
will
North.
definitely
It will-
influence
it
their
will be an-
decision.
it will
It's not
be-
going to be immaterial to what they decide.
It will be an input into
Yes.
their process, yes.
And it's a maintenance liability to have, I mean, 70-something feet to 103 feet is 45% wider. And so, I mean, that's kind of a big deal too. And then you could separate uses if you had a trail along the south side. I mean, for, I don't know how much it is it $1 million? You don't need the same kind of load capacity for pedestrian and cycling bridges, like a second bridge along there as well. And you've already owned the land, the approach on both sides, and you're closing off that intersection. You give a lot more room for kind of the trail to diverge onto its own bridge. If you need to suck up 5 lanes on a 70-foot cross-section, you could divert transportation that's not cars from the south side completely off and regain 10 feet there at a later time. I don't know, it feels like a lot of cost for a maybe 30 years from now.
So,
And I know you've got the funding from MAG, so it's like the city's like, we don't have to spend city money on this, which makes it really appealing. But you do have to spend city money on it with every maintenance cycle and all that kind of stuff.
it's in phase 2 of the LRP, so when we start talking about phase 2, that begins in 2033. It goes to 2042, and that's 10 to 20 years away, right? And so, worst case scenario, I think Dave is painting is it's 30 years in the future. Best case scenario, it's 10 years in the future. And all that is immaterial because they have to do an EIS beforehand. And certainly, Jeff, what you said, UDOT will consider that, but they're gonna consider 820 North, whether we do this bridge
Oh,
or not.
I know, they will,
Right?
I was just wondering, what would you like from TMAC?
It's an informational item. We really like you to show up at some of the meetings, especially when we have the open house. We want you to talk to people. We want you to listen to people's concerns. You're the TMAC. And when we hold the open house, we're gonna go back and do the legwork here. We're gonna go out and meet with BYU, we're gonna meet with IHC, we're gonna meet with Bike Walk Provo, we're gonna meet with Planning Commission next Wednesday. We're gonna meet with a lot of folks. Anybody that wants us to come and give this presentation, we'll certainly do it, even if it's the Rotary Club or whatever. presented there before on things. And
Vern likes talking to the public and he's good at it. So I say, go for it.
and I think in the past, there might have been, and I'm not saying for sure, but there might have been some consternation that this here is what Jeff said, the head of the snake. No, it's not. I think we follow is what Councilor Hadley and Greg and the rest of you are saying.
We'll be going into, obviously, we're approaching our PI efforts this summer. I'll be working with our design team, and we're going to start moving forward as best we can. But we're hoping that everything will be out to bid spring of next year. So construction will hopefully start April, May timeframe, a year from now.
Do you plan to come back to TMAC in the future after you've gone through the public process, or is this it?
You know, we're coming back. I'm going to show you.
So after you go through public process, they will have another opportunity to look at this and weigh in if they need to or want to.
Absolutely. We're going to provide, we're not going to design by committee, James, but we are going to come back before TMAC and show you what we've done over the meetings that we've met with people, and then we're going to show you the design. I don't like holding public meetings in November and December, and I certainly don't like doing it during June, July, and August. So I want to get all my individual meetings done before the summer, and then I would like to come back in September and hold our public open house. I think it's a little bit disingenuous, hold it in the month of July, or when everybody's out of town on vacation. So, you know, we've been doing public involvement a long time, and I just know that there are certain months that's better than others.
Could be a way that we get to schedule the meetings, that way we can possibly show up.
Yeah, we're gonna be at Planning Commission next Wednesday. I'm trying to schedule Bike Walk Provo. I think that might be in early May, the first week of May.
You're thinking
I'll
more the
talk to
public
Aaron
open house,
I'm
today.
thinking more of the public one.
Oh, the public one.
Just let us know when you're having it.
The public one will be in September. That will be the big one, and obviously, we want the TMAC there.
Are you gonna do individual neighborhood, like show up at the neighborhood district meeting?
We're gonna do all 5 of the neighborhood district meetings. Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I would have just.
all 5.
Well, we've said this already, but the first thing you should say in those meetings,
The bridge is crumbling.
the bridge is crumbling, and this is about the bridge, this is not about the interchange.
Yes.
Honestly, because even when I got it in the first time you guys presented in city council, Gordon might remember, that was my question, because I didn't know. I was like, is this like part of a big package, or, but it was hard, it's just hard to know how all these pieces fit together, but you know it in and out, but to the public, it's all one big, you know, vague thing. And so if you just clarify right away, I mean, you'll have people who don't believe you or be suspicious, but I mean, I think if you can just
Well, you started this presentation with, I mean, we've talked about this a lot, that 800 North needs to be widened. We've talked about it in planning commission meetings when we talked about projects being approved and they might need some more setback, and do we want to consider that? And so I think if you move past that and just go to, you know, because if you tell me it's on the long range plan, that's lovely, but I think if you focus on, this is an immediate need, and because it's on the long range plan as this type of a street, we need it to look like this, but here's what we can do to make it a nicer project. I feel like that's what the people want to know. How does this impact how I'm going to use the bridge? And then there'll be a small group of people that would like to know how it impacts their property in the adjacent area.
And we're working with all those. I've met with all of them. I've met with all the property owners adjacently to the bridge. And so they're aware of what's coming, and we'll be working closely with them through this process.
We're gonna take that advice, and we're gonna modify the presentation to do exactly what you guys recommended.
I strongly recommend you not use the word right side. I think that's a terrible word,
Right side?
right sizing the bridge.
Is that an alternative, Greg?
I think you just say, we're supporting connectivity into the future over the 75-year lifespan of the structure.
We can do that.
Right, because it implies that a 100-foot wide 5-lane road is the right size for that bridge. And I think that would get you into a firestorm pretty quickly with the neighbors.
If they know that your intent is to build the
On the right
exact
side of
same
this
size
bridge
of
is a
road.
5-lane road.
No, they need to know, you're just gonna build the exact same thing they
That's right.
see, but you're gonna build it with potential for growth without having to build another bridge. They need to know, this is not gonna be a 5-lane highway next year, this is gonna be the same one they have with pedestrian and bike improvement, so that it's safe
Right.
for every user.
Absolutely. Yeah, we can do that. I don't mind wordsmithing modification. This is probably,
I try not to fight about every word
Number
you say, but right sizing really rankled on me all day.
And Greg doesn't get rankled very easily.
All my comments.
He also has a very, very specific list of triggers that none of us else understand.
Greg, did you go through the right side of the river?
You know, I don't remember. I was in Georgia in 2012, so if it was happening here, then I missed it. But, yeah.
I know how to get under your skin.
2008 to 2012, that's all they talked about, was right sizing companies, right?
Underpark your bike rack.
Right, so I'm
That's right.
gonna come up with reasons to say right size to Greg.
We got a two bike parking spot for a meeting where 3 people ride their bikes every night.
Any other questions?
Hey, I have just a little bit of information that might find interesting. History of this bridge. 20 years ago, our sufficiency rating on this bridge started to decline. And we have it on our list of, we need to start thinking about this. 20 years ago, 10 years ago, we started submitting applications to TMAC, try to get funding. So now that we're actually funded, we can do something about it. So it takes a while for these things to come to pass, but it's been on the list as a crumbling bridge for a long time.
Good job for asking for money back then.
Really. There is one thing that keeps running through my head, and I'm just, that road is gonna have to be shut down while the bridge is being.
Yes, it will.
Yes and no. Okay, Vern.
He said yes.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will. I thought you said yes and no. Oh, good, that road will still be open. No.
So you can't do it like the one over the railroad tracks where they're gonna shut down half at a time?
Where the place says a new bridge will be, will not allow for the existing bridge to remain.
We're gonna do traffic calming during the period of the construction of the bridge. All the neighbors.
That's not called traffic calming, that's called road closure.
Nature will be restored. We'll make TikTok videos about all the birds chirping along the.
So by traffic calming, you mean you're gonna have people out there saying, calm down.
There's gonna have to be detour.
Don't get angry.
Yeah. 500 Where's Columbia to 14. Yeah, Grandview Hill, we'll just have a.
We'll let people know, we've talked to the people
Most
out
likely,
there
yeah.
and told, so the residents are gonna know what's happening.
How long will it be? How long?
Not more than 6 months,
Good.
6 to
That'll
9
be-
months.
Only half a year?
6 to 8 months, we don't know.
We don't know.
Some of it's over the summer.
Over the summer. Over the summer, we'll have- okay.
Okay.
We good? Okay. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next month. Congratulations to Gordon.